Chapter 6 The number 1 Academy on the Douluo continent. Oh. Huo Yuao had originally planned to ponder the few capturing techniques that Bei Bei had taught him yesterday, but he immediately turned blank after hearing what Tanya had said. The three continued their journey. While they were walking, Tanya explained the situation within Shrek Academy to Huo Yuao. Shrek Academy had been established 10,000 years ago, and the word Shrek meant monster in the ancient language. This also meant that the people who'd founded Shrek Academy at the start had wanted to establish an academy of monsters. Shrek Academy's oldest motto was to breed only monsters, not ordinary people, but the word monster actually referred to geniuses. Even the person who'd founded the Douluo continent's number 1 Tang sect had graduated from Shrek Academy, and it was also that student who brought about the first glorious moment for Shrek Academy. At that time, Shrek Academy had only had their founding students, who were referred to as the Shrek 7 monsters within the Shrek Academy's history. The story of Shrek's 7 monsters had already spread for a long time, and the most famous of them was still the husband and wife couple that included the sect master of the Tang sect. Afterwards, although the Tang sect declined, Shrek Academy still stood high. Furthermore, following the developments that came with the passage of time, it gradually became the number 1 academy on the Douluo continent. Nowadays, Shrek Academy held a position of power within the continent, the root of the cause of being the continental war that had occurred during the collision of the Douluo continent and the Sun Moon continent 4,000 years ago. When the war had only just started, the three empires of the Douluo continent had been divided in their opinions, causing the Douluo continent to be at a disadvantageous position during the start of the war, so much so that the army of the Sun Moon continent had been able to make their way to the inner parts of the Douluo continent. At this crucial moment, Shrek Academy's dean from that year had made a rallying cry. This had an unexpectedly large response, causing nearly 60 titled Douluo super experts to temporarily become the commanders of the three armies. After taking command of their armies, they swiftly destroyed the Sun Moon Empire's army, obtaining the final victory in the war, and unifying the continents into one called the Douluo continent. The Sun Moon Empire only managed to continue existing afterwards by giving up its lands, and by paying war reparations. However, their military strength had been weakened by an extremely large amount, which led to them being unable to contend with the three combined armies of the Douluo continent anymore. Its military strength was equivalent to that of a single empire, at most. The war also caused the reputation of Shrek's Academy to soar. It wasn't just because Shrek Academy had gathered 60 titled Douluos, but was also because that year's dean had become the commander of the three empires' unified army. Under his rallying cry, the royal families from the three great empires discovered, to their great surprise, that practically all of the generals of the unified army had come from Shrek Academy. Under the unified allocation of resources by Shrek Academy's dean, the combined army of the three great empires no longer had any discord between them. It was also because of this unification that they were able to achieve victory. From then on, Shrek Academy no longer belonged to any single country. It had become a standalone existence. Shrek Academy had successively raised extremely wise deans. Although the academy held a majestic position on the continent, they weren't arrogant in the least. The academy's attitude towards all countries was the same. Furthermore, they didn't possess any private armies, and the number of teachers that they kept was even kept at a certain limit. Because of this, Shrek Academy didn't cause any of the countries to feel a sense of danger. After all, Shrek Academy was an academy. Thus, not only did it continue to exist, but its lofty position within the continent was also one that couldn't be easily shaken by any country. Shrek Academy was located within the southeastern portion of the Tian Han Empire, with the Great Stardo Forest located directly southwest from it. The Doling Empire was east of it, and the Dalu Empire was located northwards. It could be said that Shrek Academy was located at the intersection point of the three empires. Tanya told Huo Yuao that Shrek Academy was currently divided into two parts, the inner courtyard and the outer courtyard. Every year, the number of new students they'd recruit was around 1,000 or so, yet the total number of students within the academy had never surpassed 5,000. It would take 12 years for one to complete their studies and graduate after entering Shrek Academy. This also meant that Shrek Academy's elimination rate was extremely high every year. If one wasn't able to pass the academy's assessments, he'd be mercilessly kicked out of the academy. However, every single person that managed to successfully graduate from Shrek Academy was a once-in-a-generation genius. It could be said that Shrek Academy was truly a cradle filled with experts, so much so that even political issues would occur between the Tian Han Empire, Doling Empire, and Daluo Empire due to the number of students that Shrek Academy would admit each year. The fame of the number 1 academy in the world could clearly be seen from this. The Sun Moon Empire, on the other hand, possibly due to their enmity with Shrek Academy, had never asked to send people to study at Shrek Academy. There were also a few high-level academies within the Sun Moon Empire that had already reached a fairly high standard after experiencing a few thousand years of development. Only, the Sun Moon Empire's military strength had always been limited due to the pact they'd made after the war, which prevented them from expanding too much. Thus, the Sun Moon Empire was still keeping a low profile, at least on the surface. Yuao, once you enter the academy, you'll cultivate in the outer courtyard. The outer courtyard is split into many faculties, so you should temporarily cultivate inside the control faculty. At the same time, you should simultaneously study inside of the Soul Engineering Institution. How about it? Tanya asked Huo Yuao after giving him a simple introduction to the Shrek Academy's internal situation. Teacher Xiaoya, what's this Soul Engineering Institution? Huo Yuao asked. Tanya replied, the so-called Soul Engineering Institution is a place created for the sake of studying soul weapons. She unexpectedly clenched her teeth in anger as she said the word soul weapons. Soul weapons? Huo Yuao was still slightly puzzled. However, you couldn't blame him. Shrek Academy was currently the number 1 academy on the continent, yet he'd grown up in a closed environment since he was young. Thus, he naturally had little knowledge and experience of such matters. Seeing Tanya's slightly unhappy expression, Bei Bei took her place explaining things to Huo Yuao. Soul tools actually have a very large relationship with our Tang sect. In a sense, soul tools are weapons that we use soul force to activate. Higher quality soul tools will possess greater might. This also means that, even if you're only a tool soul master, you'd still be able to possess considerably high attack power if you had a strong soul tool. However, the development of soul tools was one of the main reasons for our Tang sect's decline. Our Tang sect was still flourishing 4,000 years ago. However, the collision with the Sun Moon continent was the root cause for our Tang sect's decline. Tanya spoke with a hateful tone. Our Tang sect was famous for hidden weapons, and our main source of income was obtained by selling hidden weapons. In the past, almost every single country would purchase a certain amount of hidden weapons from us. Even some sects would do the same. Over 4,000 years ago, war quickly broke out when the Sun Moon continent collided with our Douluo continent. The three empires' armies, supported by the hidden weapons of our Tang sect, collided with the army of the Sun Moon Empire. In the end, although the Sun Moon Empire wasn't strong in the aspect of soul masters, they possessed unique insights in the aspects of soul tools. These soul tools were activated with soul force and surpassed our Tang sect's hidden weapons in strength as a whole, as well as in attack range. In the end, it caused the three empires of our Douluo continent to suffer disastrous losses during the initial phase of the war. Although we won the war in the end, the effectiveness of our Tang sect's hidden weapons was called into question. From then on, various countries started a large-scale reduction in purchasing our hidden weapons. Even though our income was still high, a large portion of it was donated out. As for the will of the first sect master, the donated money was used to improve the lifestyle of the ordinary folk who lived in impoverished areas, as well as to build schools and other public facilities. Thus, we didn't have a lot of extra cash. At that time, the Tang sect had several thousand people in it. However, the speed of our decline was simply too quick. After only a mere 200 years, our Tang sect had rapidly declined. The former number 1 sect in the continent never saw its former glory again. When the Tang sect reached my generation, the only 3 people left were my father, my mother, and me. And when we were hunting some soul beasts, my mother and father died. Thus, the Tang sect only had a lone child like me left. When she got to this point, tears flowed down Tanya's smooth and exquisite face, and she couldn't help but clench her fists tightly. Who are you? Murmured. Teacher Xiaoya, are our Tang sect's hidden weapons truly incomparable to these soul tools? Tanya sighed and said, in certain aspects, what you say is indeed true. What the Sun Moon continent brought to us wasn't just soul tools, but also a plentiful amount of minerals. These rare minerals are all extremely good conductors for soul force. which makes them especially suitable for manufacturing soul tools. This caused the high-speed development of soul tools to happen during the few thousand years after the war had ended, which resulted in an even smaller market for our Tang sect's hidden weapons. However, in the field of degree of meticulousness, as well as design ingenuity, our Tang sect's hidden weapons absolutely surpass soul tools. This is especially true of a few sharp hidden weapons, which are even superior to soul weapons. However, the manufacturing requirements for those hidden weapons are also extremely complicated. Bei rubbed Tanya's head and said, the development of soul tools has truly dealt a harsh blow to our Tang sect and its hidden weapons. When I just met Tanya, she stubbornly believed that hidden weapons were stronger than soul tools. However, the facts have proven that soul tools are capable of replacing our Tang sect's hidden weapons and becoming weapons that are accepted by all parties, which indeed makes sense. Firstly, it's because they've simply been easily accepted by the masses, especially those tool soul masters who don't actually have any attacking capabilities. After possessing a soul tool, they turned into battle soul masters in practically an instant, with the only cost they had to pay being soul force. Thus, after Xiaoya and I discussed it, we decided that our Tang sect absolutely could not continue following our old ways, locking ourselves in our own world. If we wanted the sect to flourish once again, if we want to make the glory of the Tang sect reappear, then not only do we have to understand soul tools, but we also need to merge them with the manufacturing techniques of our current hidden weapons to create even stronger soul tools. This is the only way our Tang sect will have the opportunity to grow. Because of this, each and every one of our Tang sect's disciples must simultaneously study soul tools while cultivating their martial souls. Who are you? I replied. Teacher Xiaoya, eldest senior brother. Since soul weapons are so strong, why did the Sun Moon Empire lose to the allied army of our three empires during the war? Bei smiled calmly and said, that's because, although the soul weapons they possessed back then were strong, even the strongest soul tool wasn't able to compare to the fighting power of the tidal Douluo. However, after a few thousand years of development, a few especially strong soul tools have begun to appear, whose strength can even threaten tidal Douluo's. However, soul tools have a major issue, which is the fact that stronger soul tools require stronger soul masters to use them to their fullest extent. If you don't have enough soul force to support their usage, their power will be extremely limited. Thus, an interesting phenomenon has occurred after our two continents merged together. The people over here are doing their utmost to study the methods needed to manufacture soul tools, while the people over at the Sun Moon Empire are doing their best to cultivate strong soul masters. After these past few thousand years, our two continents seem to actually be somewhat balanced. Huro Yuao finally had an initial understanding of Shrek Academy with Bei and Tanya's introductions. After Tanya rubbed the tears off of her face, she grabbed Huro Yuao's sleeve and said, little Yuao, the most important thing for you to do right now is to stay within Shrek Academy. Bei and I are already third-year students, and it shouldn't be a problem for us to rise to the rank of fourth-year students since I've obtained my 1,000-year soul ring. After becoming fourth-year students, the elimination rate isn't that high. After a few more years, we'll have the chance to enter the inner courtyard and study there. However, you're different. After entering the academy as a first-year student, the competition you'll face will be the most intense. The academy will have an assessment for new students every 3 months, and only students who are able to pass the assessment can stay. Although our Tang sect has the privilege of admitting a single student into Shrek Academy, whether you can continue to stay will all depend on you. This is something that no one can help you with. Do you understand? Huro Yuao nodded his head seriously as he said, Teacher Xiaoya, I will definitely do my best. However, with your eldest senior brother's power, have you actually not become students of the inner courtyard? Tanya replied, wanting to enter the inner courtyard of Shrek Academy is easier said than done. The rules for Shrek Academy have never been changed. The outer courtyard was only created later on, due to the three empires' requests so that they could cultivate even more talented people. However, only students who have entered the inner courtyard are considered true students of Shrek Academy. Every single student in the inner courtyard is a genius, or a monstrous genius, and some of them can only be described as monsters. Students in the outer courtyard will have a test after staying there for 6 years, and can graduate after passing that test. Only the most outstanding people that take the test, which number extremely few, will have the chance to take the entrance exam for the inner courtyard. Only after passing that test will they have permission to enter the inner courtyard. The time taken to complete their studies within the inner courtyard is also 6 years. Supposedly, every single person that has graduated from the inner courtyard is at least an expert of the Soul Emperor rank. Furthermore, they'll receive the best treatment from all countries, including the Sun Moon Empire. It's that amazing. When Huro Yuao heard this, he couldn't help a feeling of infatuation rising in his heart. He secretly thought to himself that, if he could one day become a graduating student from Shrek Academy's inner courtyard, he could return to the Duke's mansion to ask for his mother's remains. Then, his mother could be at peace. After he thought of this, he couldn't help but clench his fists tightly. Bei was serious as he said, it's far more amazing. I once saw an upperclassman from the inner courtyard. He entered the Great Stardo Forest by himself, and defeated 3 10,000-year soul beasts with his bare hands, without killing them. He then took them back to the academy. Supposedly, that was the mission he'd received for his 10th year assessment. Tanya said, I've even heard that there was once a 12th-year upperclassman who'd already reached the soul sage level by the time he graduated. Furthermore, he even possessed a 100,000-year soul ring. That upperclassman later stayed in the academy to be raised as the next dean of the academy. After hearing their explanations, Huro Yuao had begun to have an impatient feeling. His interactions with Bei and Tanya these past few days had made him deeply understand the enormous benefits he received towards his cultivation when he had a good teacher. Shrek Academy was undoubtedly the best choice. He secretly made a vow to himself that, no matter how hard he had to work, he'd ensure that he remained in the outer courtyard, and that he would strive to enter the inner courtyard in the future. With this feeling in his heart, Huro Yuao couldn't help but begin to ponder the secret techniques of the Tang sect while they walked. Bei and Tanya's introduction to Shrek Academy had already ignited a flame in his heart. Tanya and Bei couldn't help but smile at each other when they saw Huro Yuao's appearance. When they'd entered Shrek Academy in the beginning, weren't they just like Huro Yuao? After a few hours, Huro Yuao finally saw Shrek Academy. Rather than calling it an academy, it'd be more suitable to call it a city. As they walked out of the forest near the main road, they were able to see the tall walls of the city beginning to extend upwards from the distant fields. Shrek Academy had been established on a wide field, thus the area that it covered was extremely vast. It was a city in and of itself, and the city's name was Shrek City. Shrek City was one of the biggest cities on the Douluo continent, and the number of people who lived in it surpassed 2 million. Furthermore, Shrek Academy was the sole governor of the city, and didn't need to pay any taxes to any country. This single point just by itself was something that every single other academy, including those in the Sun Moon continent, were unable to say. Shrek Academy wasn't located in the middle of Shrek City, but the eastern part. This was because the distant Great Stardo Forest was located towards the east. Shrek Academy was surrounded by land in all directions, and could also be said to be accessible from all directions. It wasn't only the location of Shrek Academy, but was also the most important trade city for the Douluo continent's original 3 empires. Because of Shrek Academy, the peacekeeping within Shrek City was extremely good. Transactions made within the city weren't just fair, but also made people feel at ease. Because of this, most of the merchants from the 3 empires would choose to do their business within Shrek City when conducting transnational trade. The southern, western, and northern city gates of Shrek City could be entered and exited through at will. Only the eastern gate was exclusive to Shrek Academy. Under Bei and Tanya's lead, Huro Yuao arrived outside the eastern city gate. This city gate was only usable by Shrek Academy, but it was currently extremely busy. There were at least 5,000 people gathered outside the eastern gate, and it was unusually lively. A large number of traders had already moved here due to the rumors, as this gate was even livelier than the other gates by a large margin. Junior brother, you're just in time for the academy's recruitment of new students. You should be able to join this year's batch of new students without any problems, which will make you our junior by 3 years. These ordinary new students don't just have to pass the assessment, but also have to have a recommendation letter from one of the 3 empires' capital cities at the very minimum. This time of year is always the busiest period of time for Shrek City. Huro Yuao quietly asked, eldest senior brother, is the assessment very difficult? Bei hesitated, and subconsciously looked towards Huro Yuao. Tanya, on the other hand, was straightforward as she said, he'll find out sooner or later. This will also become the driving force behind his future hard work, so it's better to tell him now. Little Yuao, the entrance exam for Shrek Academy's outer courtyard has 2 requirements. 1, you can't be older than 20, and 2, the soul force cannot be lower than the 15th rank. If you look at it purely from the standpoint of the examination standards, you don't meet the qualifications to enter. She didn't say anything that would make Huro Yuao work harder, because she knew that he already worked hard enough. Huro Yuao asked seriously, then, will the first assessment after 3 months also test my soul force? With his physique, wanting to increase his soul force from the 11th rank to the 15th rank within 3 months was an entirely impossible task. Bei shook his head and replied, no. The assessments of our Shrek Academy always consist of live combat. As a teacher once said, any amount of numerical data pales in the face of live combat. Who are you? Al forcefully nodded his head. Teacher Xiaoya, eldest senior brother. Perhaps I currently can't compare to the overwhelming majority of the new students, but I will definitely exceed them in the future. His words had a calmness that surpassed his peers, and a firmness that did the same was also present within his spirit eyes. Bei, who was a head taller than Hua Yuao, extended his arms out to grab his shoulders as he said, let's go. If you can get through the following 3 months, eldest senior brother will be optimistic about your chances to get to the end. Bei and Tanya took Hua Yuao with them as they skirted the crowd and arrived at the eastern city gate. There were 10 male and female youths standing outside the eastern city gate, protecting it. They were roughly the same age as Tanya and Bei, and all of them were wearing yellow warrior robes with a green pattern inscribed on the chests. This was the uniform for second and third year students of Shrek Academy's outer courtyard. When they saw Bei, they immediately became respectful. Eldest senior brother Bei, you've returned. Bei smiled and greeted every one of his junior and senior brothers. Afterwards, he spoke a few words to the leader of the group. That student glanced at Hua Yuao, then immediately nodded his head. There's nothing to doubt about our senior brother's words. Go take this junior brother inside to register. Bei smiled as he gave him a thumbs up. Thanks. I'll treat you junior brothers to a meal next time. The other person wasn't polite either as he laughed. Then that's that. We won't give up the chance to have a feast. Bei raised his hand and gave him a high five. I won't disappoint everyone. When he'd finished speaking, he and Tanya took Hua Yuao into the eastern city gate, which was also the symbol for Shrek Academy's door. Not far away, a new student, who just finished enrolling for his assessment, asked the older student who was in charge of his assessment, senior classmate, who was that senior classmate? That was senior brother Bei. His name is Bei, but everyone calls him Thunderbolt Bei. He possesses the number 1 beast soul, the blue lightning tyrant dragon. Furthermore, he's exceptionally talented. At the age of 13, he broke through to the 30th rank, and his cultivation has supposedly approached the 40th rank, which means that he could break through and become a soul ancestor in 1 or 2 years. He's one of the outstanding experts of our outer courtyard, with senior brother Bei's strength, and if it weren't for that junior classmate called Tanya who's accompanying him, he could have already started the 5th year assessment for the outer courtyard. If he breaks through to the 40th rank, I predict that even the 6th year assessments won't stop him. Eldest senior brother Bei isn't just strong, he's always been kind to people. If you were to ask who the most popular person in the outer courtyard was, it would definitely be him. Senior brother Bei is the prince charming of many female students in the outer courtyard, but he's single-mindedly focused on who he loves. 4. The sake of junior classmate Tanya, he's rejected the confessions of an uncountable number of junior and senior female classmates. Reportedly, even some of the female senior classmates from the inner courtyard have fallen for him. Everyone says that senior brother Bei will definitely enter the inner courtyard in 2 years at most. When Bei and Tanya took Hua Yuao into Shrek Academy, it was different from the vast and solemn scene that he'd imagined. Shrek Academy had an elegant environment, and there were various types of abundant and lush flora within. As he walked along the wide main path, he was able to see at least 10 plants in every direction he looked. These plants had clearly been meticulously pruned. After he'd walked for 200 or so meters, several enormous sculptures appeared in front of him, covering his line of sight. There were a total of 10 sculptures, and they were all 10 meters tall. They had all been carved from extremely tough granite. There were 3 sculptures in the front, with the middle sculpture resembling an old man. He had a set of spectacles and a beaming look on his face. His figure was average, but he was slightly plump, and he looked like a yes man. Bei said to Hua Yuao, the person in the middle is the founder of Shrek Academy, and also the first dean of the academy, Flender. The person to his left is an ancestor of my clan. He created the teaching foundations that are currently used by various martial soul systems within Shrek Academy. He's also one of the martial soul world's 10 core role models, and has the title of Grandmaster. His name is Zhougang. My mother was a direct descendant of his bloodline. The woman to the right is also another ancestor of mine, Luilong. She's Grandmaster's wife. The 3 of them were able to merge together and form the golden iron triangle. If Dean Flender could be said to have founded Shrek Academy, then Grandmaster would be the true spirit behind it. He was also the person who single-handedly raised Shrek's 7 monsters, whose sculptures are behind them. The sculpture of Grandmaster looked like a middle-aged man who'd wasted away a bit, while Luilong was a charming middle-aged woman. There were 7 sculptures lined up horizontally behind them. When Hua Yuao's gaze fell upon the sculpture in the middle, who stood at the forefront of the others, his body couldn't help but tremble. It was a statue of a tall man who had a handsome appearance, but the most peculiar thing about him were his eyes. There was a pattern on his forehead with the word king, and although it was only a sculpture, it had a sort of imposing and strong pressure. The 7 sculptures that stand behind the golden iron triangle are Shrek's 7 monsters, who previously created their own glory. The person who's standing in front is the white tiger Douluo, Dalu, while the second person is the sausage Douluo, Oscar. The third person is our Tang sex ancestor, the Asura Douluo, Tang San. Tang San was the most handsome amongst the 7. His blue hair was draped across his shoulders, and he wore a simple set of warrior's robes. Blue vines that were clearly his blue silver grass martial soul had coiled around the sculpture. There was also a faint smile at the corner of his mouth, but his lifelike gaze was fixed on a woman who was 5th in the row, who had braided hair. The 4th person is the evil phoenix Douluo, Ma Hongjian, while the 5th person is Tang San's wife, the soft-boned Douluo, Xiaowu. According to the stories, she was a 100,000-year soul beast who chose to cultivate as a human. The person even further back is the 9 treasure Douluo, Ning Rongrong, who holds the title of the world's strongest auxiliary soul master. She was also the sausage Douluo's wife. The last person is the netherworld Douluo, Ju King. She was the wife of the white tiger Douluo. The first generation of Shrek's 7 monsters sculptures all had different shapes, but the fact that they were all titled Douluos attested to how strong they'd been in the past. Tang Ya's gaze was fixed on the sculpture of the Asura Douluo, Tang San. The golden iron triangle and the first generation of Shrek's 7 monsters have laid the foundation for Shrek Academy. Even though 10,000 years had gone by, and even though Shrek Academy had raised an uncountable number of outstanding geniuses and experts, the number of sculptures had never increased, and had remained at 10. Bei explained to Hua Yuao, we'll have to separate here. If you walk to the left, you'll arrive at the Martial Soul Institution. If you walk to the right, you'll arrive at the Soul Engineering Institution. These are the 2 largest branches of Shrek Academy, and they both belong to the outer courtyard. If you were to compare them, the Martial Soul Institution is larger, while the Soul Engineering Institution is smaller. Furthermore, the Martial Soul Institution is also divided into many departments. We'll go to the Martial Soul Institution to get you registered first. The basic requirement for you to enroll in the Soul Engineering Institution is for you to pass the first assessment for new students. Hua Yuao's gaze was still stuck on the 10 sculptures. When he thought about the legends that his mother had told him about, he occasionally felt a shocked feeling rise in his heart. The road to the left of the sculptures was still very wide, and could fit 4 or 5 carriages side by side. There was a signboard next to the road with the words Lakeside Path written on it. You could faintly see a large body of water hidden within the shady green trees to the right. This also meant that there was an enormous lake behind the 10 sculptures of the golden iron triangle and Shrek's 7 monsters. Tanya noticed Hua Yuao's gaze, and couldn't help but speak with a slightly proud voice. That's an artificial lake made for the sake of commemorating our Tang sex ancestor, Tang San. It's called Sea God's Lake, because according to the legends, our ancestor Tang San inherited the Sea God's legacy. The Sea God's Lake has an extremely large surface area, and is filled entirely with groundwater. Our Shrek Academy's inner courtyard is located on an island in the middle of the Sea God's Lake. Every single disciple from the outer courtyard feels honored if they're able to reach the center island of Sea God's Lake. Bei looked toward the Sea God's Lake with a deep gaze, and a determined and stubborn light flashed through his eyes. The Sea God's Lake was indeed very large. As they followed the lakeside path to head southward, they only needed to turn westwards after a full 15 minutes had passed. Only after they walked another 15 minutes or so did the path finally begin to recede, causing a vast, rectangular plaza to appear in their line of sight. A signboard with the words Shrek Plaza also stood beside the plaza. There were many tall teaching areas behind Shrek Plaza. The colors of these teaching areas were all different, and were separated into 4 main colors: white, yellow, purple, and black. If one gazed into the far south of Shrek Plaza, they'd even be able to see a grey teaching area. Bei pointed towards the teaching areas next to the plaza as he said, the different colored teaching areas represent the different years of students, which are differentiated according to the colors of soul rings. The white teaching areas are for new students, just like the lowest level 10-year soul rings. Accordingly, the yellow teaching areas are for the outer courtyard 2nd and 3rd year students, and the purple teaching areas are for the 4th and 5th year students. The black teaching areas are for the 6th year students. If you're able to leave the black teaching areas, you'll be able to obtain a graduation certificate from the academy's outer courtyard. Those grey teaching areas in the distance belong to the Soul Engineering Institution. If you were to compare their size here, the Soul Engineering Institution takes up roughly a third of the teaching area, while the Martial Soul Department takes up a full 2/3. Besides these teaching areas at the front, there are also many special teaching grounds located in the back, such as the Soul Drilling Arena, the assessment areas, the dormitories, the teachers' offices, and so on. The new students' white teaching areas were located to the far south, and were also the closest to the lakeside path. The 3 of them walked southwards from Shrek Plaza, arriving at the teaching area, because it was currently the period that new students were admitted in. The new students' teaching area was especially lively. A few new students who already passed their assessments were currently there to enroll. With Bei and Tang Ya's guidance, Who Are You was able to report for his registration extremely smoothly. The school's fees were paid by Bei, with the fee for a new student unexpectedly being 10 gold soul coins. Furthermore, this didn't include his food expenses. If one had to quit school due to failing an assessment, their school fees wouldn't be refunded. After collecting his dorm key and 2 sets of school uniforms, as well as a white freshman badge, Who Are You followed Tanya and Bei towards the new students' teaching area. Tanya said, "Little Yuao, the dormitories behind the teaching areas. It's the largest building in the entire academy. You can go there by yourself later. New students will formally start their classes in 3 days, so you can familiarize yourself with the environment during the next few days. We've paid for your first year school fees, but you'll have to rely on yourself for next year. The academy has various types of competitions, all of which have prize money for winning them. Also, you're already a soul master, so once you finish registering, you can collect the salary that the 3 empires give out once a month. You should save some of it, but it should be enough for food." Who Are You made sure he remembered everything that Tanya said. When he was about to bid his farewells to teacher Xiaoyo and Bei looked at the nearby bulletin board and furrowed his brows slightly when he saw the announcement pasted on it. Who Are You didn't need to walk up to it. He merely circulated his soul force a bit, and the strong visual abilities of his spirit eyes exhibited their use, allowing him to see the words on the announcement clearly. Who Are You's mother had taught him how to read since he was young, so although he'd never formally attended school, his education level wasn't bad at all. He saw the words that were written on the announcement: teacher in charge of the class 1, Zhou Yi. Teacher in charge of class 2, Zhou Yi. I think that I'm in class 1, because he'd registered early. Who Are You had been directly assigned to the first class of new students, class 1. Tanya had also noticed. She let out a low cry of surprise. Ah. Why is it that perverted old grandma, Zhou Yi? Doesn't she teach year 3? Why would she be assigned to teach new students? Bei smiled bitterly. I heard that teacher Zhou was overly strict when she taught the 3rd year students, which resulted in only 10% of her students being promoted to 4th year students. Furthermore, she was reported by the students to the academy many times, which led to her being demoted to teaching new students. Junior brother, you must be careful. There aren't many monstrous students within the outer courtyard of our Shrek Academy, but there are many monstrous teachers. Of them, the worst is this teacher Zhou. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.